What a tremendous evening. Ladies and gentlemen, will you join me in recognizing, first of all, entrance to my left here to this audience's right. Please welcome South Dakota Supreme Court Chief Justice David Gilbertson and his wife, Deb, by applause. And ladies and gentlemen, the governor of the great state of South Dakota on the eve of our birthday, Dennis Dugard, and the lovely First Lady, Linda Dugard. Welcome to your capital. Doesn't that have a great ring? It is the people's place. On the occasion of South Dakota's Quasquicentennial, say that 5 different times. Quasqua, Quasqua, Quasqua. It is a beautiful opportunity to be with you this evening and an incredible honor and privilege as a Lieutenant Governor to serve you as your MC and host this evening. Coincidentally, my lovely bride Karen is here and my mother Pat. We're from Yankton before those thieves in Bismarck took the territorial capital away from us. Not that we're still holding a grudge, but we don't really care. They can have their own state governor. To them, that's great. It's an incredible night because we begin this evening with a performance of a composition by Dr. Stephen Yarborough, who is here with us this evening, entitled Celebrate South Dakota. And he wrote it especially for our birthday, the 125th anniversary of statehood. Tonight is the world performance premiere. Dr. Yarborough offers these reflections on his work. Celebrate South Dakota was written as a tribute of praise to this great land and its even greater people. From the Black Hills to the Big Sioux, our state is a place of wonder and awe. May this music fill you with joy at the magnificence of the great state of South Dakota. And performing the music tonight behind me is the South Dakota Symphony Orchestra under the direction of Delta David Geyer, the maestro. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Maestro Geyer and our South Dakota Symphony Orchestra. Majestic, Doctor. It was majestic to hear it echo in these halls and for us to have the ears to hear it for the first time. Dr. Yarborough, the composer of that piece, is a South Dakotan who's contributed to the fine arts in South Dakota for many, many years. For 29 years, he taught music theory and composition at the University of South Dakota and was composer in residence for the College of Fine Arts at the university. In 1989, he composed a choral and orchestral work to celebrate our centennial, which he conducted at the premiere with the Black Hills Chamber Music Society Chorus and the Black Hills Symphony. I've been honored to know Dr. Yarborough for many years, and I actually am in awe of your talent when you hear it right here, sir. Dr. Yarborough is obviously here tonight with his lovely wife, Janice. Would you please stand so that we can thank you for this gift you've given us? Tonight we celebrate South Dakota's birthday in this building that, more than anything else, represents our great state. We are also marking the conclusion of the most significant project that this building and the state, frankly, has undertaken in 25 years since the major restoration during the Capitol's restoration in 1989. The stained glass skylights, both in the House of Representatives, if you've never been there, or the Senate, along with this barrel vault, we call it, and the rotunda, were all completely restored, rebuilt, and returned to the Capitol. These historic glassworks were originally designed and installed in 1909 during the Capitol's construction, and they had deteriorated significantly with age. Despite the repairs over the years, we were in danger of losing this gift sooner rather than later, according to the experts. The project to restore this, though, is very illustrative of Governor Dugard's attitude and mission and leadership in our state. There were no easy answers. Removing the stained glass would certainly be cheap, but of course that would really sell short the majesty and the import of this building. A capital repair plan certainly would have worked, but would have still only taken and extended their life by 10 to 20 years and leaving us with the same problem. So restoring the glass panels and making them better for the future would certainly be the most expensive, and prudence dictated that we demanded each and be prudent with each dollar. Governor Dugard, if you do not know him, takes personal interest in everything he does, but especially in buildings that he's involved in. He's taken personal interest in this project. He inspected the condition, and I remember when first we were briefed on this that he had to see it firsthand. And so he, along with Raleigh Isaacson and other people, climbed up, and it's like a toddler. They got his eyes off of him just for a few minutes, and he climbed up over on the rotunda on some of these things, and I almost got a job promotion. I mean, don't take that personally. I mean, it was, we were all really worried. But he understood the problem after seeing and considering the options, but in seriousness, his gift of being able to ascertain what needed to be done really pushed us over the goal line. The value of the investment that he has made and we have made with the public treasury will make these beautiful pieces of art last for a century, if not longer. Art, architecture, and history for the future of this great state. Ladies and gentlemen, it is truly my privilege to invite the governor of our great state to rededicate our newly restored stained glass artworks. Again, our governor, my dear friend, Dennis Dugard.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate the investment analogy. Like any investment, it was only as good as the money available. And I want to say thank you to a number of legislators who are here tonight who recognize the importance of investing in maintenance and repair and have in recent years dedicated additional dollars to maintain and repair the buildings, especially a building like this of which we're so proud. Please help me thank the legislators for their support for this maintenance and repair. It's been a lot of fun to watch people's reaction since the stained glass has been reinstalled. Even though the light behind it has not been on, it's still beautiful, exceptionally beautiful. And oh wow is typically the reaction you get. And the brilliance of the stained glass, of course, here is beyond anyone's memory. The brilliance was there when it was installed over 100 years ago, but things have changed over 100 years. It made a big difference to clean the glass, of course, but the most important project, the object of this project, was to strengthen it, strengthen the installation. In the course of over 100 years, the glass had weakened, and gravity had exposed weakness in the design of the panels. They lacked enough support for the weight of the glass, and the lead was pure lead, which is not a strong metal. And we are fortunate that they lasted this long. It even appears that some stained glass in the legislative chambers was actually installed upside down, with the glass hanging from some supports instead of being above those supports. 199 different panels of stained glass were removed and shipped to a studio in Wisconsin to be completely disassembled. Every panel completely disassembled, every piece of glass separated from the camming. New perimeter framing was installed, additional support bars were added, and strong alloy, not pure lead, but lead alloy, was used for the camming. All this increased the strength of the stained glass panels. Now, we often hear say, they don't make it like they used to. Well, we did not make it like they used to. We made it better, and we even installed the legislative panels right side up. How about that? It took nearly 30,000 worker hours to complete this project, and the work was completed in a very unique partnership between a nationally renowned historic restoration firm and a local firm right here from Pierre. As they described it, Sharp Enterprises from here did the heavy lifting, and Conrad Schmidt Studios did the pretty stuff. And their dedication to the project was always apparent. They demonstrated they understood this building is a special place, the stained glass a special art, and the occasion tonight once in a lifetime. The result is beauty to last beyond the next century. I'd like to ask now Garrett McComsey from Sharp Enterprises and Kevin Grabowski of Conrad Schmidt Studios to join me on the stage. Garrick, raise your hand. Garrick is the owner of Sharp Enterprises here in Pierre. His crews engineered such feats as, just one example, disassembling a 30-foot tall scaffolding that occupied nearly the entire House chamber, disassembling that and reassembling it on the Senate side in 3.5 hours. That's the kind of work they had to do. Kevin is the National Projects Director for Conrad Schmidt Studios from New Berlin, Wisconsin. His artisan staff gave expert care to our stained glass, including reassembling by hand the 14,816 pieces of glass for the Rotunda Dome. And I checked they're all in the right spot. We do have special gifts to you to show our appreciation for your work on this historic project. Over the decades, as some of you know, we've had restoration work done in the Capitol. Things have changed over the years. The legislative chambers, for example, had to be enlarged and reconfigured. And in cases like that, once in a while, we have some marble that must be removed but cannot be reinstalled in the reconfigured space. And we save that marble. We don't discard it. We save it because it has historic value. On behalf of the people of South Dakota, to show our appreciation for your wonderful care of our Capitol, it's my pleasure to present you plaques made from original Capitol marble. Mike? On time, on budget, and celebrated by a symphony. What a great way to finish up a punch list, huh? Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Garrett.
It goes without saying that this was an amazing project for us. So honored to be entrusted with the fabric of this building. I mean, something that belongs to the state of South Dakota, the people of South Dakota. Really honored to be here. And I want to say thank you to our craftsmen. It's really easy for me to get up here in a suit and be the pretty guy saying thank you very much, but those 30,000 hours didn't come from me. There was a lot of people, men and women, that worked very, very hard, put all of themselves into this project to make it happen, and really took enormous pride in making it really special. There's one other thing that's really special about this project for Conrad Schmidt Studios. Of course, we're celebrating this great installation along with the 125th anniversary of statehood for South Dakota. It's also the 125th anniversary of Conrad Schmidt Studios.
Wow.
And considering that, we thought, what a perfect time for a birthday gift. So during the project, one of the things we had to do is identify glass that was in the windows that wasn't original. There was lots of restorations done over the years, and often the glass that they used to replace broken pieces didn't match perfectly, and part of the documentation we did was to remove those pieces, document them, and put new glass in those areas that matched much more closely, better replicas than what had been done over the years. And the result of that was, a fantastic restoration, but it also meant we had some boxes of glass left over that were part of the original fabric of this building for many years, if not originally, at least for many years. As you all know, the Governor's Mansion is a little bit newer, more contemporary building. We thought, what a great opportunity to do something a little more historical for the Governor's Mansion. And so what we've done is we've made a stained glass window for the Governor's Mansion out of the remnants of the glass from the state capitol. And we'd like to present that today as a birthday present to the state of South Dakota.
Wow.
Now, any good design is not just a pretty window. It should mean something. And yay, I love the wow. Some of it is very obvious. The state seal, everybody can recognize that. But there's much more there, and I won't go into every single detail. Part of the magic of this window is kind of discovering what's there and why it's there. But I'll go into some of the details so you can share in what makes this window especially appropriate for not only the Governor's Mansion, but for the people of South Dakota. We have a state seal in the center. One of my favorite parts of the window are 66 diamonds that go around the outside of the window. And if you know anything about the legend and lore of this building, the floors that are around here, there were 66 craftsmen that put the floor in. Each was given a blue tile to put somewhere in the building. And we wanted to kind of connect ourselves to that long legacy of craftsmen here. And obviously, there's people that were electricians and plumbers and all those other people who didn't get to put a blue tile on their work. This is for all those people as well. We also have a wreath that goes at the top of the window. It has 32 leaves for the 32 governors of the state of South Dakota. We also have some of the other details. There's a piece of rose quartz at the top of the window that was custom made for this window by Scott's Rock Shop out in Custer, South Dakota. And we had them cut it and polish it. It's from South Dakota. It's the state mineral or the state rock. Gemstone. See, and being from Wisconsin, I'm still learning. And that's what's great about this window. Hopefully it'll help people learn those facts. Also at the bottom is Fairburn agate, which is the state mineral. Right. And at the bottom are pasque flowers, which are the state flower. And my favorite little detail, if you come up and look at it sometime after, if it's on display here, is there's a small honeybee kiln fired and painted into the glass at the top. So we tried to include a lot of special details, and it's our great privilege to leave this with you in the state of South Dakota. Thank you.
Thank you. What a wonderful gift. Thank you so much.
Obviously, Kevin thought those were light. About a year and a half ago, you know, we seen this, the state had the rejuvenation of the stained glass coming out. And, you know, I grabbed the documents and I come down here and I walk through the state capitol, and we've done some work in the capitol before, and I stood right here in the rotunda floor and I looked up and I go, how are we going to get all of those panels down here if we get this job? And here we are tonight. I would like to thank the state for giving Sharp Enterprises the opportunity to build this project. I would also like to thank Kevin and his crew and Conrad Schmidt from the studios for all their hard work and the time they put into these panels, and all my staff at Sharp Enterprises. In closing, I am very thankful to have been part of a once-in-a-lifetime project. Thank you.
All right, you know what's left. The one last thing to do to celebrate our stained glass restoration. When the Capitol was built, some of the stained glass panels were actually real skylights with a roof of thick reinforced glass to allow sunlight to shine on the stained glass in the legislative chambers we're talking about. Now, the glass roof did not fare very well over time, and eventually those skylights were replaced with solid roof. And in the case of the rotunda, the barrel vault, and now also the legislative chambers, backlights produce the light that creates the beauty of the stained glass. Now, those electric lights over time had become less than good. They were not very good. In fact, some of those diffuser panels were very yellow, very discolored. There weren't very many lights, and so the illumination was very uneven. It just did not do justice to the beauty of these panels. So those lights above the barrel vault and above the rotunda have now been replaced with new LED lighting, which is more energy efficient and tremendously bright. So tonight, we're going to turn on the new lights for the public for the first time. And Marty, is that your daughter there? You want to come up and help us out here? Now tell me your name. Isabella. Okay, Isabella. Jennifer's going to give you the cue. You know, when we were talking backstage, I didn't know. I thought, well, if someone else could screw it up, that would be better than me screwing it up. So, Isabella, I'm going to have you sit down here. Don't touch that switch yet. You sit down right there and watch Jennifer, and she'll give you the cue. But Maestro, I think some dramatic music would be appropriate, don't you? All right, you watch Jennifer, and when she gives you the signal, here's the switch.
Well, Governor, I think I read Genesis wrong growing up, Mom. You kind of told me wrong. The governor said, "Let there be light." And there was. One small anecdote, which after the first legislative session, the governor and I were elected, there was a flood. After the flood, we had a meeting in here in the recovery portion, talking with individuals about what needed to be done, and all of a sudden there was this big bang. No joke. And we looked at each other up front, and he looked at me, and he goes, "What is that?" And I said, "I think it was a burrito." No. I said, "Governor, you know, I think that either it was a sonic boom, because that's what it sounded like, or, you know, I'd lived in places where there were earthquakes. I thought it was an earthquake, but we weren't sure." And later on, we were told it was an earthquake. And so when the governor had gone up to see all of this, and he'd come down the next day and told us really how precarious this was, I don't think it's too far off to say that God was involved in making sure that they did not fall, because it was that precarious. At the same time, we were wondering floods, earthquakes. We were waiting for locust and pestilence. We didn't get those. So I think that we're good. Before we go on and celebrate with this beautiful symphony orchestra, I would like for you to join with me as recognized by the stained glass window that a number of us, including the governor, have had many jobs in this world. But there are a group of people within this Capitol and the grounds that really are unsung heroes. They make this bright work shine brightly. They keep the toilets to the marble shining so that when we bring people in here, they are in awe. And these are the people that really, to a lot of folks, are invisible. But like the governor's parents and like we were raised, all work has dignity. And indeed, some of the most dignified people we have serving our state are the people of the buildings and grounds here in this lovely Capitol, working day and night, not only for events like this, but for non-events, for people coming in here to make sure that it's nice and a beautiful front door to our family. And Raleigh Isaacson, who's really the leader of that group, is here. But I would ask you, Raleigh, to stand and take our thanks and applause back to your whole team for all this magnificent work. South Dakota Symphony Orchestra has been part of the cultural landscape of South Dakota for over 93 years. They began their current season a month ago in a special performance set to stunning aerial footage of our great state from South Dakota Public Broadcasting. The orchestra, as said before, is under the direction of Maestro Delta David Geyer, and he has directed the orchestra since 2004 and really helped, along with these talented people, to reach new artistic heights and outreach achievements heretofore not existent. The orchestra and its chamber ensembles perform more than 200 concerts across our state every year. But ladies and gentlemen, we are witnessing history, because this is the first time in the history of the state that that is the full orchestra, will perform here in the state capitol. Please welcome Maestro Geyer and the South Dakota Symphony Orchestra for tonight's feature performance.
We're very privileged to be a part of your celebration this evening, this celebration of this great state of South Dakota as your South Dakota Symphony Orchestra. Coming up with a program was my responsibility. What to play? Well, Beethoven is the centerpiece of what any orchestra does, and any great orchestra plays Beethoven well, and any orchestra that does not play Beethoven well is not a great orchestra. Simply so. But there's another reason to play Beethoven tonight, and there's someone who said it better than I ever could, and that is Leonard Bernstein. He said, Beethoven turned out pieces of breathtaking rightness. Rightness, that's the word. When you get the feeling that whatever note succeeds the last is the only possible note that can rightly happen at that instant in that context, chances are you're listening to Beethoven. Melodies, fugues, rhythms, leave them to the Tchaikovskys and the Hindemiths and the Ravels. Our boy has the real goods, the stuff from heaven, the power to make you feel at the finish that something is right in the world. There is something that checks throughout, that follows its own laws consistently, something we can trust that will never let us down. Amen? That's, you see the heads nodding back here. When we play Beethoven, this music is Beethoven's gift to the world, and our playing of Beethoven is a gift when we play it with each other and for you. This Sixth Symphony of Beethoven is unique in the 9 symphonies that he wrote in that it is a programmatic symphony. It's called the pastoral. What I mean by that is that there's an extra musical idea connected to the symphony, pastoral as in countryside, which has to do with the beauty of our state of South Dakota. The first movement, which we're about to play for you, has a title on the top of it which simply says, "The Awakenings of Feelings Upon Arrival in the Country." So think about that for a minute. How do you put a feeling into sound? How do you create music that makes people feel a certain way? Programmatic music for other composers means painting pictures and making you think of certain things, but this is getting to the core of who you are as a human being. Listen carefully and see if Beethoven doesn't touch something about rightness in you. Thank you, thank you. See, I told you, everything is all right. No? Don't you feel ennobled? Don't you feel that something is better? That's Beethoven. That's why we play Beethoven. We're going to play the last three movements of this symphony, and here we go more programmatic. So you have to sort of imagine yourself getting out of your carriage, arriving in the country with these wonderful feelings, and taking a stroll. And the first thing that you come upon is the third movement, which is a gathering of happy folk. And you can hear the folk gathering in this sort of scurrying of the violins, and in the middle of this, you're going to get a real country dance. Like a peasant dance, a heavy-footed country dance. It's really beautiful. And just when we're causing all of this ruckus, all of a sudden there's thunder. And you can hear the thunder in the low basses, and you can hear raindrops begin to fall in the second violins. And then a storm erupts, a huge storm. And it's amazing because just through the music, you can hear the storm come, you can hear it peak, and then at the end of that fourth movement, you can actually hear the storm go away and the rumblings of the thunder as it goes in the distance. And this gives way to the last movement of the symphony, which is called Shepherd's Song, and feelings of thankfulness after the storm. So you're going to hear the shepherd's song at the beginning of this movement. You'll hear it first in the clarinet and then the horn. And then this gorgeous melody that comes in the first violins, which Beethoven varies throughout the rest of the movement. And again, how do you compose thankfulness? How do you compose a piece of music that makes you feel thankful? Let's see if our boy gets it right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. You know, Governor, it's not a bad space. It makes us sound pretty good. You should have us back here more often. What do you think? Just saying. We are the South Dakota Symphony, after all. So we're going to close out our portion of the program with some music that might be familiar. I chose it because just on the off chance that there might be someone here of Norwegian descent. Anybody? Anybody ever heard of Grieg? All right, so all you Norwegians out there, right? You know Grieg, you know Pierre. How many of you Norwegians have actually read Ibsen? Come on, look, oh, come on. And you call yourself Norwegians, and you've not read Ibsen. I've read Ibsen, and I'm German, for Pete's sake. So this is incidental music to the play Peer Gynt. And the music will be very familiar to you, the Morning Mood, the Anitra's Dance, and the ever popular In the Hall of the Mountain King.
Maestro, I wish you would get into it a little more.
A little tired.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just it's the last movement, Maestro, since you and these very talented people, that crescendo is very similar, very familiar to the legislators and the governor in us, because that's what the last day of the legislature sounds like. Right? Thank you. That was for comedic truth value. For people who will be watching this or watching it now, we are set up obviously in the rotunda. I'm looking to the north, and our east and west wings are full of individuals that don't have the ability to actually see. They can hear this beautiful music. And wasn't it incredible? But it was incredible from our vantage point because you see in different musical experiences, you have individual bands that play, and then you have some bands that perform. You can see by the way that they touched our souls that they are one with the music. A number of us have been privileged to live in other parts of the world. I was honored to serve in the military, as a number of you were. And we live in a free nation and a state because people have lived and died so that we can celebrate. I have had the experience of being in environments where dictators would have dictated what music would be played, and you'd have to go in front of a censor. I talked to the maestro earlier today, and he was happy he didn't have to go in front of the governor because they couldn't play Led Zeppelin. I could. Oh, you could, but you know, I've been watching our friend here, the oboist, who I know loves Led Zeppelin, I could tell. Tonight, as you know, we are celebrating our birthday, 125 years of carrying North Dakota. I said that out loud, Patrick. I'm sorry. Sometimes I think these things and they come out. It is the eve, actually, of the 125 years ago of the event that President Benjamin Harrison signed the proclamations that admitted South Dakota and our sister state, North Dakota, to the Union. As you may know, there is in the legal profession a principle called precedence. That is, that a past decision offers a direction for the future in a later case. Wisdom is applying that lesson to all of history. We must understand our past to ground our present and to guide our future. It seems fitting then that we should ask the gentleman who holds the highest judicial position in the state and who has not only a great affinity for history, but has taught us all a great deal about the history of this state, to tell us the story of how the people of Dakota Territory achieved statehood. It was not just President Harrison's pen and the stroke of that pen, but a result of nearly 2 decades of effort. David Gilbertson was appointed to the South Dakota Supreme Court in 1995. He was first elected by the fellow justices to serve as Chief Justice in 2001 and was recently elected to an unprecedented 4th four-year term. Please welcome the Honorable David Gilbertson, Chief Justice of our Supreme Court.
Thank you. Thank you. Before I start, a point of personal privilege, Maestro, this old Norwegian would like to say Manatak for playing in the Hall of the Mountain King. For you non-Norwegians, that means many thanks.
With pleasure.
South Dakota. How did we get to be South Dakota? This state has a name today and is marked on maps. A mere 135 years ago, it was known only as the West. However, on March 1st, 1861, President Buchanan signed a bill creating Dakota Territory. It now had a name on a map, but little more. For in reality, Dakota Territory was no more than a few log cabins and sod huts clinging to the north side of the Missouri River in the Yankton and Vermilion areas. However, within a year, they had a legislature, it met, and they had a territorial governor. And 3 things really contributed to the rapid expansion of Dakota Territory. One was the Homestead Act of 1862. It opened up huge areas for homesteading in this territory. Secondly, at the end of the Civil War, a grateful nation provided additional land to Union veterans who had saved their country. And finally, about 10 years later, hordes of Northern Europeans, mainly immigrants, came to this area and settled here because of the promise of land. By 1872, there really had already developed a split in Dakota Territory. The northern part had huge bonanza wheat farms, but the southern part was small homesteads. And even at that point, there was a bill in Congress to actually split Dakota Territory in 2, but it did not pass. About that same time came the first discussions of statehood. And it's great if you can have a strong leader, a hero to bring people together to found a new country, such as George Washington did, or a new state. But we didn't have that. We had the second best. We had a villain of the first water to unite people against him. And that was kind of the impetus for South Dakota to get to be South Dakota. His name was Matthew Ordway. He was the territorial governor, and he was appointed by the President of the United States, elected by no one. Well, Ordway apparently decided that this was a job that he should enjoy financially. So he appointed his son as the state auditor and deposited the territorial funds in banks he just happened to own. He also sold county commissioner positions and then committed the ultimate outrage. He moved the capital from Yankton to Bismarck. The legislature had had enough. So they passed a bill saying, we are going to have a constitutional convention, write a constitution, and becoming a state. Now, Ordway was no fool. He knew if South Dakota became a state, no more territorial governor. And he clearly was not going to be elected governor of a state of South Dakota. So he vetoed the bill for the Constitutional Convention. The Constitutional Convention met anyway and wrote our first Constitution in 1883. And it's pretty similar to what we have today. And then there was going to be a vote on it. And not only were copies of the Constitution printed in English, they were also printed in German, Russian, and Scandinavian. So the immigrants could read them. Now, this has always baffled me because there is no language Scandinavian. So I don't know what they printed it in. But they ordered it printed anyway. It passed, but most people didn't vote. So the delegation went to Washington, D.C. with new Constitution in hand to lobby Congress to recognize the new state of South Dakota. Governor Ordway, seeing his job on the line as territorial governor, also went to D.C. to lobby against it. And at this point, I know this is going to shock you, but politics came into play. Not unlike today, the Senate was controlled by one party and the House by the other, except in this day it was the Republicans controlled the Senate and the Democrats controlled the House. Well, the Republicans salivated at the thought of 4 more Republican senators coming from 2 new states. The Democrats who controlled the House did not salivate. So the bill passed the Senate easily and got to the House where it died. And so back came Ordway victorious, but so outraged the local citizenry that he was indicted by the U.S. Attorney for felony fraud. And he slowly departed from the scene. So by 1885, they thought another constitutional convention is in order. This time we'll get the job done. So they met again in Sioux Falls, wrote and passed a constitution that is very similar to what we have today. And it was approved by the voters, but once again, problems. The election of 1884 had put Grover Cleveland in the White House, and Grover was a Democrat. Grover could count too, and he saw no merit in 4 more Republican senators. So what did he do? He sent Lewis Church out to be the governor of Dakota Territory. Lewis, being smart, decided if that was good enough for the boss, that was good enough for him. So he also took the position that he was against statehood. The pro-statehood forces in the legislature responded by trying to impeach him, but that didn't work. So this battle raged back and forth with annual attempts to try to get statehood, and got through one house, the Senate, and failed in the House. Finally, by 1887, the citizenry were so exhausted, they compromised. They said, okay, if you won't make 2 states, how about making us 1 state? And that didn't even work. That failed too. So by 1888, the winds had changed politically. The champion of statehood in Congress, Senator Benjamin Harrison of Indiana, was elected president, and the Republicans gained control of both houses. So the Democrats, not being sore losers, threw in the towel and passed the Omnibus Act, which authorized not only South Dakota and North Dakota to become states, but also Montana and the state of Washington. We had a 3rd Constitutional Convention in 1889, which was just rubber stamping the 1885 convention. It was voted on and it was passed overwhelmingly. And when the results were announced, there was huge jubilation. The Pierre newspaper pointed out they had bands playing in Pierre, cannons were firing, a 20-foot bonfire, and Governor Millett spoke to the crowd. And so the only thing that was left was for Governor Harrison to sign the proclamations creating South Dakota and North Dakota states. He did so, but he did it in an unusual way. He did not want one state to claim it was the senior of the two states. So he signed them both and then shuffled them. And so he took to his grave which state actually became a state first. After those signatures, the following telegram was sent from Secretary of State James G. Blaine to Governor Millett, who was not only the last territorial governor, but our first governor of the state of South Dakota. The telegram said, "The last act in the admission of the two Dakotas in the Union was completed at the White House at 3:40 this afternoon by the President Benjamin Harrison, signing at that moment the two states. The article on prohibition submitted separately, and each state was adopted in both. The article providing for minority representation in South Dakota was rejected by the people. This is the first instance in the history of the national government of twin states. North and South Dakota entered the Union at the same time. These pioneers are long gone, but it's theirs in a way forever. They left tracks in history that are with us today. So, this is our 125th anniversary, or birthday. And I think it's only fitting that we recognize that. So, Maestro, could we call upon you and your wonderful orchestra to lead us in a rousing version of Happy Birthday?
Thank you, Chief Justice, so very much. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm sure happy that 125 years later that we're not concerned about political control of the House or Senate. I said that out loud too, didn't I, Patrick? One of the most interesting connections is being from Yankton, the chief was generous. Ordway was a thief, and in more ways than one. And what was very interesting in connecting Governor Dugard administration and our team to back then is, out of a cruel twist, the Human Services Center for Care of the Insane had one large building that was for the criminally insane, and its name was Ordway. A coincidence? I think not. But with the legislature's help, seriously, the governor put together a stewardship plan, and it was with great delight we saw that building bulldozed. In addition to the traditional birthday song and Dr. Yarborough, Your Beautiful Song for South Dakota, a special centennial birthday song was written 25 years ago by Aberdeen natives, John Kakavas and his wife Bonnie Becker Kakavas. In their careers, they wrote many motion picture scores, maybe you know them, the airport movies, themes for television shows like Kojak or Hawaii Five-0. Is that theme coming in your head right now? Quincy and Magnum P.I. John was also just one incredible national leader in American school music, writing over 2,000 works for school orchestras, choruses, and symphonic bands. And one great gift came from John and Bonnie's gift to South Dakota during the centennial. That was presided over by Governor and First Lady Linda Mickelson, who's here tonight. First Lady, may we recognize you. And she and maybe a number of others of you were here for its first performance of the gift that the Caucavuses gave us. It was entitled South Dakota, My Dakota, and its first performance was right here in Pierre over at T.F. Riggs High School, and conducted and played by the South Dakota Symphony at the time. And the guest conductor at that night was Governor George S. Mickelson. And today we had the privilege of a gift from people working here in Pierre, in the city of Pierre, and people who recognize his leadership to unveil a statue right over here. Governor Mickelson there with a coat over his jacket, getting ready to greet us like he always would. And so that was a historic performance, and maybe it's time for another historic performance, Maestro. I mean, maybe somebody could help you. I don't know. Who would that be?
I need to hand over the baton to somebody, I believe. Governor. He looks like a conductor, right? Are you ready? Here we go. Okay. Here we go. And 1, 2, 3, and.
He could put an eye out with that thing. I'm sorry, is this mic on? Oh. As you can see, if you don't know our governor, he's a man of many talents. Some are more developed than others. But seriously, it really has been an honor and a pleasure to serve with my friend and my leader these past 4 years, actually as his second fiddle. Drum riff on that one? Drum riff. Second fiddle. I suppose you could tell we didn't rehearse this. Actually, our governor is indeed an excellent symphony conductor. He has enthusiasm. He is decisive. He's a motivator, good communicator. He uses hand gestures a lot in meetings. He's well organized, but he's flexible. He has to travel a lot, and he's, especially with me, very patient. He is certainly not the leader of our symphony since we have the maestro, but he is truly the leader of our band. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Dennis Dugard.
Thank you. A little over a year ago, I appointed a committee who cared very much about South Dakota history because we knew this would be a special year. They met 4 times, they received lots of public testimony, and they created over 30 ideas to help us celebrate our birthday in a meaningful and exciting way. And I'd like to recognize them now, the 125th anniversary of Statehood committee members. Some of them are here. Would you please stand to be recognized? Committee members, please stand. There they are over here. Well, thank you so much. Of course, that committee created a lot of strategic direction. Some of them had actually helped with the 100th anniversary celebration. But beyond strategic direction, you also need execution. And we had 3 folks here in Pierre that provided great execution. First, a person whose knowledge and experience was invaluable, a longtime servant in state government, Jim Sawyer. Where is Jim? Jim, right here. Jim, let's recognize Jim Sawyer. Yolanda, thank you for giving us Jim's time. I also want to recognize Grace Kessler, who is a volunteer to do all the social media and promote the history and events through it. There's Grace right there. Thank you, Grace. And one other person deserves very special recognition. He helped on all the projects, coordinated this spectacular and very difficult and lengthy stained glass restoration, and tonight's event, down to the smallest particular detail. I want to thank his wife also for giving him that extra time and those extra hours that she sacrificed him for. Mike and Kathy Mueller, please both stand up. The Anniversary of Statehood Committee had lots of great ideas. One idea was to invite communities to do 3 special things to be designated as Statehood celebration communities, and over 50 communities responded. They agreed to create a celebration of some kind with a history theme, or add the history theme to a celebration they already had. Also promote history, promote the 125th anniversary and our history as a state, and raise money for a lasting legacy project. For celebrations, there were parades, rodeos, fireworks, picnics, and many activities for kids, including inflatables, face painting, barrel rides, pedal pulls, and old-time demonstrations. For promoting history and lasting legacy projects, there were restorations of libraries, museums, and old storefronts, remodeling of community centers, new playground equipment, tree plantings, writing of local history books, honoring of senior citizens and veterans, and more. For fundraisers, there were raffles, concerts, team competitions, chili cook-offs, races, and bake sales. But communities also had a murder mystery dinner theater, a live horse painting contest, the selling of how to make kolaches DVDs, and of course, a Sherwin-Linton concert. One town raised money by playing cow bingo. I'm not sure how one plays cow bingo. Oh, cow pie bingo. Now it's clear. Yeah, I didn't read that right. But Frederick, the town of Frederick, South Dakota, had the most unique fundraiser of all at their FinFest, a wife-carrying contest. Yeah. It was popular because the first place prize was your wife's weight in beer. Yeah. There were also special projects and events throughout the year. And of course, Yankton. Yankton had a special kickoff for our 125th last fall, and also had a celebration in September when the wagon train started there. The wagon train traveled over 200 miles in 17 days, with over 50 wagons and 200 people traveling 3 miles an hour. It stayed overnight in 13 towns and several pastures. Each night, local historians described history to the wagon train and audiences from the area. I took a break from the Capitol one afternoon and joined the wagon train, borrowed a horse, and I know it's hard to believe, but some symphony conductors can also ride horses. North Dakota Governor Jack Dalrymple and his wife Betsy joined Linda and me here in Pierre on September 20th, welcoming the wagon train's arrival here at the state capitol. Earlier in the summer, Linda and I had gone to Bismarck to help North Dakota celebrate their 125th birthday as well. The Humanities Council sponsored visits to several towns by Kathleen Norris, author of Dakota, A Spiritual Geography. Altman Studeni, who is here tonight, went to every county in the state, filled up 66 buckets of dirt, one from each county, dumped all the dirt in a huge pile back in Plankington, mixed the dirt up, put the mixed dirt back in the 66 buckets so that every bucket had every dirt from every county, planted bur oak saplings in each bucket, brought them all to Pierre so they could grow in their buckets behind Capitol Hill, behind the Capitol and Hilgers Gulch, and then had them returned to each county to be planted where the dirt came from. It makes me tired just talking about it. Altman Studeni is right here. Altman, stand up. Bravo. When someone asked Altman why he did the project, he referred to a 400-year-old bur oak tree in Wessenden Springs and said this: simple things like the trees and soil that surround us in our everyday lives can serve as reminders that South Dakota's history began long before statehood. The lesson of the bur oak is one of perseverance. The deeper one's roots, the more firmly does one stand when gale winds blow. Perseverance is an excellent word to use in describing South Dakotans. You can see it in the excellent books about South Dakota and South Dakotans, both before and after statehood, that describe and help us understand the different cultures and people who have lived in this place we now call South Dakota. The book that really captures the qualities of the people of South Dakota is Challenge, the South Dakota Story by Robert Karlevitz. In each chapter of his book, Bob describes the enormous challenges the people of South Dakota have overcome in our history to create a wonderful place to live, work, and raise a family. He concluded that South Dakotans have a fierce but quiet pride in solving problems, achieving beyond anyone's expectations, and not only surviving, but prevailing against every challenge they're given. 25 years ago, cowboy singer Kyle Evans wrote a wonderful country western song about South Dakota called Celebrate the Century. His words are as true today as they were during the centennial. Don't worry, I won't sing it, but here are those wonderful words that Kyle wrote about South Dakota. Where horses traveled dusty trails, fancy cars now drive on superhighways. Where one-room cabins used to stand, modern high-rise buildings line the skyways. Where there was once just a mountain, today there are faces carved in stone, and they represent the freedom of this South Dakota land we call home. Let us never take for granted a lifestyle unequaled in this land, where a friend is still a true friend, always there to lend a helping hand. Where religion is still our guideline and Old Glory will always be unfurled. Where you'll find old-fashioned values in a fast-moving modern-day world. So let's celebrate the century with pride, honor, and dignity. Where 100 years of progress made a million dreams come true. And like the hardy pioneers, look forward to the coming years with dreams for South Dakota and the will to see them through. With dreams for South Dakota and the will to see them through. With words in a book and in a song, Bob Karlevitz and Kyle Evans have captured the uniqueness of our South Dakota history and her people. South Dakotans have a quiet, fierce but quiet pride in solving problems, achieving beyond anyone's expectations, and prevailing against every challenge we're given. And we dare to dream, then have the will to make those dreams come true. That's the legacy of our forebears that we must carry forward. We persevere to make things better and better, and we will. Happy birthday, South Dakota. Maestro, I think we should ask Maestro to play one more song. But before you do that, Maestro, I want you to know how special this night has been for us to have you and your wonderful symphony here in the Capitol to celebrate the state's special birthday. And we have a marble plaque for you to commemorate your historic performance. On behalf of the people of South Dakota, thank you, and thank you to the South Dakota Symphony very much.
The Chief Justice spoke of the creation of our state through the Constitution. The preamble actually opened up because the individuals involved all came from strong religious backgrounds, thankful to Almighty God, but more importantly said words that in today would be like this, that we care about you in the future, we care about the ability of free people to be able to dream and live out those dreams unencumbered, but also to be self-governing, which was a unique experiment of our nation. Only in a nation like this, with people who are willing to think like that, or an idea defended by lives, by blood, by sweat and tears and dreams of people that are willing to put their visions into action, could a tall, scrawny kid from a farm that went defunct and the child of 2 disabled deaf parents dream to become the leader of our state, with a fat little kid from Clay County who was the child of a single mother. None of us came from anything but knew that we could achieve because our parents said I could, our parents said that Dennis could, and that we all would be better for it. And today, listening to the music echoing through these halls, we know 125 years from now, we will be a better place because of those ideals that have been instilled in our hearts and our minds. And we want to thank you. Maestro, if you'd come back out, and we can thank you again for filling our souls with such beautiful music, and all of your symphony members, please rise. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'd like to try something since I'm in charge. Since it's our birthday, at the count of 3, let's all say happy birthday and fill it out loud so that we can hear it for posterity. At the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Happy